Welcome to another episode of Modern Latina in Midlife. I'm so glad that you're here again today, especially because I have my dear friend Monica Lorraine joining me once again. And I know how much you guys love listening to her and all the wonderful wisdom she always has to share. Today, we talked about the transitions that men and women go through in the ages of their early 40s through their late 40s through their 50s, and some of the changes that are happening in our lives at that point. And I started off by saying women because that's the group that she and I work with. We work with women primarily in these age groups. So you'll find this conversation very, very interesting, whether you're in your 40s or not, especially if you're earlier than your 40s, younger than your 40s, then you'll at least know what to expect. And when you get to that point, you'll know what's going on. But I believe that most of you listeners are in that age range, and it'll really help you start to gain some clarity as to some of the things that are starting to go through your mind and things that are happening for you. So let me introduce a little bit more about Monica Lorraine if you're not familiar with her. Today's guest is Monica Lorraine, a soul alignment coach, astrologer, and human design expert who helps women over 40 transform their lives and businesses because she believes every woman has the power to create a life that truly reflects her authentic self. With over 12 years of experience, Monica has worked with countless women to help them break through patterns of fear, doubt, and uncertainty that often prevent them from taking action. She also helps them gain clarity around their unique purpose, path, soul gifts, and core genius zone so they can create businesses that not only align with their soul's calling, but also deeply fulfilling. Through the transformative tools of astrology and human design, Monica helps women navigate life's biggest transitions because she knows that when we fully understand ourselves, we can make bold choices that lead to financial empowerment, deeper connections with others, and soul success on our terms. Monica has been instrumental in my personal journey, my career journey, and really just helping me shape both of my businesses, my podcast production business, my VA business, but also now my coaching business. And she has been instrumental in really the success of my businesses. So I was more than thrilled when she accepted to join me in a module, in a session in my upcoming Launch Your Soul Based Business group coaching program, a 90-day program to help you launch your soul based business. This is a business that is based on your soul purpose, on your soul path, on your gifts, on what you are here in this lifetime to share with the world. And so she will be joining me in one of those modules, providing a one on one session with each of the participants to really help you get clear on what you're here to do based on your birth chart and your human design. So, super thrilled. There's still time to join. The first module for this group coaching program will drop on Monday, March the 3rd, and our first live group coaching program is March the 6th. So if you're listening sometime before then, know that there is still time for you to join. And after listening to this podcast episode, you might just find that you are ready for this next step. So without further ado, let's welcome Monica Lorraine. Welcome, Monica Lorraine, back to Modern Latina in Midlife podcast. I'm super excited to have you here. Number one, I love talking to you. I know that we can always talk forever and we have so much in common. And
Yeah.
also, the listeners love having you, they love listening to you. So I'm
Oh,
super excited to have you here again. Thank you
thank
for accepting my
you. Absolutely, anytime. Like I said before, you wanna have me back, I'll come back once a month if you need me to.
awesome. I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
no, I'm super excited to be back. I was actually looking at I think it was one of the last recordings we did for a podcast, and I almost wanna say it was January of 2024. I think it was
Yeah,
a year
probably.
ago,
I think
right?
I've had you on once a year at the
Yeah.
beginning of the year each
I
time.
I said,
So,
"This is perfect.
it's
This is
it's on
perfect."
brand.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so many things happen within just a year's time, right? So much
Mhm.
transition and growth for the
Yes,
both of us. So
and we definitely shouldn't wait another year before we come back
no, no, no,
together
we
on the
won't be
podcast,
waiting.
so
Absolutely.
so, well, I'm super excited to be talking today about, what happens to women in their 40s and 50s and their transitions and, as it relates to astrology and human design. So I'm always up for talking about this stuff. So let's go for it. I know that
Dive
you
in.
gave me some talking points that we're going to talk about, and you're kind of starting with like the Uranus awakening in the early to mid 40s. So tell us what is that all about?
Yes, yes. I actually want to talk about, well, I want to start talking about it's called the Uranus opposition actually in
Mm,
astrology, but I call it the Uranus awakening. And through the course of our episode today, I'm going to bring up about three different points to talk about that'll really help you kind of identify where you are on your journey, where you are on your path, and hopefully offer some insights and some resources for you to kind of navigate some of these times or to understand a little bit more what it's about because it can be confusing. I know for me, it was super confusing when I originally went through my Uranus opposition, also known as the Uranus awakening. And the Uranus awakening is, I like to say, it's breaking free and redefining your life with the Uranus awakening, which happens around early to mid 40s. And I say early to mid 40s because you can start feeling these internal shifts anywhere from 40, 41 years old as you're approaching your 40th birthday. I mean, a lot of times people will say, oh, that's right around the time somebody starts having a midlife crisis. But I beg to differ. I like to say it is a midlife awakening,
me
and you
too.
are starting to wake up to things that are no longer working for you, right? And you can almost say that it's kind of like a feeling of like an inner restlessness, right? Where all of a sudden you've been doing things a certain way for many, many years, and everything seems to be fine. And then all of a sudden, not from one day to the next, it's kind of subtle, but then it starts to get louder, and you start to feel this inner restlessness. Now, it could be happening in your career, it could happen in your long-term relationship, your marriage, your friendships. Like there's just something that's going on that is starting to feel like it's no longer in alignment with you, or you're just out of sync with it is a really good way to speak about it.
Mhm.
And for me, when I was around that age, like probably between my 40 to 45, it was around the time that I really started just taking stock of a lot of things in my life. Relationship patterns, the kind of work I was doing, the people I was, spending my time with, family relationships, things that needed to be healed. Like you just start really kind of looking at different areas of your life, and it starts off like kind of like as an internal thing, or maybe you start talking to a couple of your girlfriends about it, or but the one thing that is true for all of us is that it doesn't seem to go away, right? And we start feeling like, is this what there is to life? Is there more for me? Am I meant for something more? We start to question. We start to ask deeper questions around this time. And I know for the Uranus awakening time, it can be confusing because it starts to create shifts and changes in some area of your life. And usually I like to tell people, like, it's not like you're going to hit your 40s and mid 40s and your life's going to blow up. It's not like that. What happens is if you are, let's say you've been in a role for a long time, right? Maybe you chose the career or the path in college based on what your parents thought you were good at or what they thought you should be. Or maybe you got married at a young age, had a couple children, a mortgage. Like you couldn't really just go off and just start exploring all these other things you wanted to do. But when you hit about, that 40 to 45, and life is a lot more settled, you start to look around like, okay, wait a minute. Is this really me? Like, what do I really want? Right?
Yeah,
Do
like I
you,
checked all the boxes of
yes,
what I was quote unquote supposed to do, right? Like what
yes,
society and expected us to do in the familial
yes,
patterns. And it's kind of like, Yeah, now what? Like,
Yeah,
what
now
is
what?
this really me? Like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? I can
Yes.
100% relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that the Uranus transit does, or the Uranus awakening does, is that it starts to you start to have urges to break free from these outdated roles and
Mhm,
embrace who you truly are, but yet you're in a space where you don't even know who that is or what that looks like,
mhm,
right? And for those of us who have been on or are on some kind of soul growth path or personal development path or spiritual or healing path, when we start asking those deeper questions, it's like one question leads into the next, into the next. Before you know it, you're down a rabbit hole of like, what the hell is my life about? Like, what am I really doing with my time here on this planet? And,
mhm.
if you think about it, prior to 40 or prior to our 40s, we probably weren't really thinking like that. I know I wasn't. I
Right.
absolutely wasn't. I
I
was,
know I wasn't for sure. I
no,
mean, I was
furthest thing from my
busy
mind.
in mom life and, I'd become a single parent at
Right.
35, so I was deep in it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so once I finally started to get a little time to kinda the kids were a little bit older and I kinda had some free time and
Yep.
on my to, like, let my mind run wild a little bit, it was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
wait a minute, hold on." It's
Yeah.
like, "What am I doing?" Yeah, 100.
Absolutely, and it's also a time where we start like I said, to question what we really want, and this is a time when we start to wanna redefine what success is on our terms, right? We wanna maybe we thought success looked like a certain amount of money per year, a certain job title, a corner office, respect from our community, from our family, whatever it is that whatever we were chasing, whatever we were after, and then we accomplished it. We got there, and then we're like, "Ooh, so now what?" Right?
Mhm.
Now what? And so I love working with both astrology and human design charts whenever I'm helping clients through this particular period of time. Because the astrology is going to tell me, well, first of all, it's going to give me the timing. It tells me when your Uranus awakening starts, when you're in the
Mhm.
middle of it, and when it's about to finally complete. By that time,
Okay.
the transition has happened, hopefully, right? There's been some kind of realignment, if you will. Were you gonna ask a
Okay.
question?
So at the conclusion of this is so in the process of this is when you're asking all the questions and like
Yes.
opening up another door. So at the
Yes.
conclusion of this Uranus awakening, you should be at a like a better place, like a space of clarity.
You hopefully you're at a place of clarity, right? But if
Mhm.
you don't know where to go, who to ask these
Mhm.
questions, if you don't know how to even figure this out for yourself,
If you
it
don't
can
have a Monica Lorraine in your
if you
life.
don't have a me, it can be very confusing. It could feel very like lonely. It could feel almost like you just don't have the certainty that you used to have
Mm,
about things. And then if you don't know this is going on, you could think something's wrong, right? Like,
mhm.
what's wrong with me? Why can't I just be happy the way that I used to be? I have everything I need, everything I wanted. I got the life I wanted. I have what's my problem? You can almost feel a little guilty, if you're dealing with this silently within yourself, right? And part
Yeah,
of
I like to call it like when everything looks good on paper. Like on paper, everything is perfect, but inside you're like something is missing. That's the
right,
way that I like to
right.
talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of times you'll hear, just in society, you'll hear, oh, that guy is going through his, midlife
Middle
crisis,
crisis.
right?
Mhm.
Or
Right.
she's going through some kind of midlife crisis or whatever it is. And going back to what I said, is it really a midlife crisis, or is it a midlife awakening?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because and this is something that could be a little controversial, but let's just say that, you went to school, you got, the education, you got the good job, you met the woman, you met the man, you got married, you had a couple children, you did all these things. You get to 40, 41 years old, and let's say in his astrology chart, right? Let's say that he's actually got a completely different setup in this lifetime, right? What if he had like multiple lifetimes where he always gave himself to his relationships, to his partnerships, where he was maybe in codependent relationships. He never really went out and ventured out into life to do what he wanted to do. So he comes into this lifetime, he repeats the process. Then he gets to 40, 41 years old, and he's like, it's almost like I need to break free of this
Mhm.
mold, this pattern, this box that I put myself in. It doesn't mean he doesn't love the wife, he doesn't love the children. It just means that he's going through some kind of like need to redefine who he is as an individual, right?
Mhm.
Because that Uranus is very much about our individuality, and that's why it starts to create some shakeups because people don't necessarily want you to be in a different role than you've been in for all
Mm.
these years. Does that make
Right, right, right.
sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So, do you wanna talk about how oh, so you talked about how astrology helps you look at where people are at in their timing as
Right,
far as the Uranus
right.
awakening. How do you want to talk about do you have more to talk about that or can we jump into like what you do with the human design piece of that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the human design piece I love because now I can actually look at somebody's chart. And again, the story I was using, it goes both ways for men and women, right?
Mhm.
But once I look at somebody's chart, I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I see that you're in this pattern or this period of your life. You're in that Uranus awakening. Okay, let's take a look at your human design chart because your human design chart is going to show me specifically like what are your truest desires, what are the things that need to be expressed in this lifetime, what are the things that you're suppressing, what are the patterns that
Mm,
you're holding on to that are not actually you, because the human design chart is amazing for showing us exactly where we have received the most conditioning, right?
mm,
Where have we been led to believe that our desires and our wishes and the things that we really want are actually not that important or as important as what we've been told we should do, we need to do, we ought to do. And so when I look at somebody's chart and I ask them a couple of questions, I can immediately see where they are actually operating from something called your not self. And your not self basically means this is not actually how I'm wired and this is not really who I am. However, this is the role that I've been playing because of the conditioning that I've received either from family or society or from everywhere, right?
mhm,
And
mhm,
so that's really eye-opening because when I can give words to an explanation to what they're experiencing, why they're experiencing, and why it's getting activated now, according to their astrology, what it does is it creates this level of almost like a I don't wanna say gives you permission to own it and to acknowledge it, but it validates what you've been
mhm.
feeling. It confirms what you've been feeling in a way that you don't have to feel guilty about it. You don't have to feel shameful about it. You don't have to feel bad about it, and you don't have to judge
Yeah.
yourself about it. It just is
Yeah.
what it is. It's energy that wants to be expressed, and you've been suppressing it or acting in the opposite manner because that's what you
Yeah.
thought you needed to do. Does that
Yeah,
resonate?
I can 100%. I can 100% attest to that. That's exactly how I felt with my very first session with you, my first human design session with
Mhm.
you and gosh, dating back to 2009.
Oh my
I remember
gosh.
just feeling like I gave myself permission
Right.
to just love this multi-passionate part of me, like
Yes.
I had so many interests. I still have so many interests and I love learning new things and I was always like, why can't I be like my brother that he wanted to be an engineer and he's an engineer and that's what it
Right.
is and my sister wanted to be a teacher and she
Mm.
went down to be a teacher and that's what it is and for me it's like I always had all these interests. I was always like, oh, let me try this. Oh,
Mhm.
okay, that was good. Now let me try this. And it's like, why can't I just stick to one thing? And I was just always judging myself. I was hard on myself.
Right. Right.
Nobody outside of me, really, but it was just me like,
Yeah.
why can't I just do one thing and stick to one thing? So that's how I felt when I finally learned what a manifesting generator is. I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh my gosh, this is me."
Yes.
It was
Yes.
beautiful, and I was able to finally be like, "Oh, okay, like, it's okay, like, n it's not only okay, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing."
Yes.
So
Yes. I like to tell my clients that human design, um, in a way, gives us permission to be who we really are
Mhm,
without feeling bad about it.
mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, not that we go around like, "Well, my human design says this, so I can't do," it's
Right,
not
right.
that, but, like, but it's liberating even just finding out. I know there's a lot more people talking about, human design out there also and astrology, but, just even understanding what your your human design type is, right? There's 5 types in human design, and, these could be considered like your energy type, right? So we have the manifester, the generator, the manifesting generator, which is not a combination of the two like some people think, a projector and a reflector. So when you find out what your human design type is already, that's going to tell you a lot about your energy and why you are the way you are, why you need to do things. Why do projectors who do better with a 4-day work week than a 5-day work week, right? There's something there that has to do with their energy. And it's not that they're lazy or that they don't want to work as hard. They work just as hard as everybody else does. It's just that they work differently, and
Mhm.
their body needs extra time to recover and to recharge their batteries. Same thing with the profile in human design, right? Profile is basically 2 numbers in your human design chart that talk about how you show up in your personality, how you're designed to interact with the world, interact with people at work, interact with your clients if you have a business, interact out in the world, how people receive and experience your energy. Just by knowing those 2 things and knowing nothing else about your human design chart is going to answer so many
Mhm.
questions. So yeah, definitely big fan of both, human design and astrology for
Women.
different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
So then when you get to that part where you help somebody kind of clarify, okay, this is where you're at, this is the timing of where you're at, and then this is your human design. Hopefully at this point they'll gain clarity. And then
Yes.
is this now when they start implementing at this stage, or I guess I'm trying to move on to like the next, like what happens next,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
this
Oftentimes, absolutely. Oftentimes, so now I would say between 45 to 50 is, or mid, maybe 43 to 50, whatever you want to call it. During this time, you now become way more open to who you really are, what you're really here for. You've tested different things, tried a few different things, and you're becoming more comfortable with the fact that, oh, I am an individual. Like I'm not here to be like everybody else, right? And maybe during that time you're also doing some healing work, maybe you're doing some mindset work. For those of you who are on a path of growth, I imagine these are the things that you're doing. It doesn't mean you have to go and blow up your relationships or blow up your career or any of that, but sometimes it does mean that you want to pivot, you want to make a change. Or not, or maybe you change the way that you're showing up in things, right? Maybe you stay in the same career, but now you want to be in a different department, right? Whatever it is, you start to uh, try to create certain circumstances in your life that align more with who you really are as an individual.
Mhm.
Now, that leads me into my next phase, which is the Chiron return. And Chiron return is about healing old wounds. It's about reclaiming your power and owning your gifts with your Chiron return journey. Now, this happens around your late 40s to early 50s. So again, I said at the beginning of the podcast, the listeners are going to kind of figure out where they are on this journey. It's not like a hard start and stop. It's kind of a one transitions into the next, right?
Mhm.
And so now you get to, your late 40s, early 50s. And now what starts to happen is depending on how much realignment you did during your mid 40s, right? You either went ahead and followed those ideas or those thoughts about what you wanted to do, you made the changes, or you didn't, right? You figured, I'm not ready for that, not ready for all that change. Let me just continue with what I'm doing, but I'm going to be doing my inner work. I'm going to find ways to express my individuality in other ways, right? Well, by the time you get to 50 or late 40s, early 50s, now what happens is this Chiron return. Chiron is literally pointing us to all of the unresolved um, wounds that we all carry. They're unresolved, unprocessed emotional energies. There's things that we thought we worked on or things that we haven't worked on, right? And it starts to really bubble up to the surface. And what it does is it offers us a chance for deep self-reflection and healing. But if you don't know that that's what's going on, it could just feel like, what the hell is going on now? Like,
Mhm.
why am I thought I dealt with this stuff. Why is all this stuff coming up again? Why am I starting to have, issues around you know, self-love, or, you know, issues with my family, or whatever the things are that you thought you worked on. But the main thing that Chiron Return is offering you is an opportunity to really get on track with your soul path. Again, you still could have been doing, you know, going along to get along from the 40s to the 50s. You could still be like, well, you know, I have children to feed, I have rent to pay, I have mortgage. I don't have the luxury of just jumping out and doing something different and following my heart's desire, right? But by the time you get to 50, now what's happening is it becomes very obvious what in your life is no longer working. The things that are working feel amazing. It feels great. You just keep on going. You're good. But the things that are not working, if you're in a marriage that you really, really are unhappy in, if you're at a career, a job that you really, it's not fulfilling, you've squeezed every ounce of experience out of it, but you're still there, maybe out of fear of doing anything else, right? If you still haven't figured out what is my purpose, what are my soul gifts? Well, between this age is when people start reaching out. This is a
Mhm.
lot of the women that come to me are between the ages of 48 and 51, because
Mm.
they're in this particular phase of their life, and they're like, I don't even know what the heck to look for. I'm not even sure what direction to go in. So looking at their astrology and their human design chart, now I'm able to really get them into to their charts to identify, this is really the work you're here to do. Now you have wisdom. Now you've gone through your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, you're going to be approaching your 50s. You have the wisdom, you have the life experience, and your Chiron, even though it highlights a very specific wound, and we all have a Chiron somewhere in our chart, even though it highlights a specific wound, it also highlights your greatest gift. It highlights the medicine that you're here to share with others if you choose to do that in
Mm.
your own unique way.
That's really beautiful to have something that can help you, to have somebody like you that can help somebody see those things
Yeah.
is really amazing. I have a quick question. So I'm about to turn 53 next week.
Hmm.
So would I still be considered to be in my Chiron return, or does that kind of depend
Oh,
on
you're on the other side of it.
I'm on the other side
You're
of
on
it?
the other side of it. So I want you to think back, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so we've known each other now since, I know, I thought 2019, it was 2019.
I'm sorry,
No,
2019,
yeah,
not
I was like, "Wait a
2009.
minute. No, it was 2019."
No, no,
Okay, think
2019.
about the journey that you've been on from 2019 until today,
Yes. Ooh,
okay?
girl.
Okay.
Let me tell you.
And I
Whew,
know because I've been present for
yes.
for big
Yes.
chunks of it, right?
Oh,
Okay.
boy.
Now,
Yeah.
even this past year, 2024, were you not in like a full shift into this newer work that you wanted to be doing?
Oh my gosh.
Okay?
It is I definitely am on the other side of that. I know what I'm here to do. I found my thing. I found my people. It's like I found what I'm here to do, and I
Yes.
honestly cannot be more lit up than I've ever been in my life. It's like
Right.
all that was worth it.
Yes.
It didn't seem like it at the time, all
No.
things, but it was like, "Oh, like, without that, like, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now." I know it sounds cliche, but I wouldn't have the wisdom and the experience of going through that
Right.
to then help others go through the same. It's
Right.
like I've been there, like, I can get you through.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I guess what I am seeing now is that I'm still seeing, and I'm sure it will probably happen for the rest of my life, things bubbling up, like you were
Yeah.
saying, things start to bubble up that you need to heal and you need to pay attention to. I feel like there are things now coming up that I didn't even know existed.
Right.
Like, oh, these are
Right.
wounds, like, I hadn't even worked on it because I hadn't even looked at it. So
Right.
that's why I asked if I was over my Chiron return or if I'm, or not, because it's like, oh wow, there's stuff coming up that I didn't even know was.
Yeah. No, you've definitely crossed over on the other side of your Chiron return. However, remember when we're working with our astrology charts, there's always other transits activating different parts of
Mhm,
our chart. So if I were to
mhm.
look at your chart, say tomorrow, right, which I probably will, if I were to look at your chart tomorrow, I could probably see what planet is activating something in a particular area of your life. And then I would ask you a couple of questions to kind of narrow down what is it bringing up, right? So
Mhm,
you don't have
mhm.
to be in your Chiron return for that to happen.
Okay.
That's going to happen naturally
That's
throughout your
gonna
life
come from
because
yeah.
every time that you're ready to up level, to evolve, to get into your next level self, which is why I wanted to name the topic what I wanted to name it, right? Every time you're ready to do that, anything that is holding you back, anything that's hindering your progress, that's standing in your way, that is unresolved, just think of it as energy. It's old energy that you haven't realized is there. And the
Mhm,
only way you're going to know it's there is if you get triggered. If it gets
mhm,
triggered somehow or uprooted, you're like, "Ooh, where did that come from?" Then I
mhm,
invite you to be curious, become curious. Well, this is interesting. I haven't thought about this in years. Why is this coming up now? What is it trying to show me? What is beneath this? Once you become
mhm,
curious about it, and you don't shame yourself. Oh God, here's another thing I got to work with, right? Or I have to heal. Once you do that, you can literally extract the wisdom out of it. You can extract the lesson out of it, that whatever it is you need. But I promise you, it's going to show up with your clients. Whatever the thing is that's showing up for you is going to show up down the road with your clients. And who
mhm,
better to help them through it than you? Because now you're like, oh well, what did happen to me? This is what I did. This is how I
mhm.
navigated through it. So your
Yeah,
wound becomes your wisdom. Your
yeah,
wounds become your wisdom, all of
yeah,
them. It's
yeah.
just that now what you'll notice is they're not like hitting you like as much as they probably did when you were like 48, 49, 50, 51.
Mhm.
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, yeah,
Because
thank
you were
God.
in a pretty deep transition during that time, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
And again, not everybody who's 48, 49, 50, 51 is going to have their life blowing up. It's more of a an internal process. From the outside, everybody might think you look fine, you have all your shit together and everything's good and there's no problem, but inside there's deep deep transformation going on. And all it's trying to do is shed you or help you shed the things that are really not in alignment with you that you don't need in this lifetime. You need to lighten your load during your Chiron return so that you can move forward with what you're really here to do. So a lot of times clients will come to me because it's during their Chiron return that they finally get to a point where they're like, I cannot stay in this relationship anymore. I cannot continue in this relationship that is has not been good for me for a long time, but because of my issues, I couldn't leave or I didn't leave. I'm ready to do the deeper work so that the part of me who stayed in this relationship doesn't feel the need to stay in the relationship anymore once she's healed.
Mhm.
Does that make
Yeah,
sense? And
yeah,
that can go
absolutely.
for career, that can go
Right.
for family dynamics,
Yes,
anything. So
yes.
Chiron
Yeah, okay,
return
thank you. Yeah.
is truly, truly a gift. And I'll tell you why, because it only happens every 50 years. So unless you want to be going through your Chiron return again when you're 100 years old, which I
I
wouldn't
don't wanna be going through
recommend.
anything at that time. I mean, I wanna be here still, believe
Right,
it or not,
right,
but I
right.
wanna be like zen, you know? It's just
Yeah,
like, I
it's
got it.
actually it's actually a really exciting time. Chiron return is not something to fear, it's something to embrace, but it starts with understanding what the heck it is and what you're specifically supposed to be learning during this time so that you can have the tools, so that you can get the support, so that you can figure out what direction you need to go in rather than suffer through it or just think that there's something wrong with you,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Mhm. Okay,
So
so I love
so
this.
the way that human design helps when you're in your Chiron return is now when we look at the fact, okay, you're in your Chiron return, fine. Let's take a look. What are your superpowers in your human design chart? What are your what's your core genius? What's the thing that people are willing they want to come to you because you do this so well, whether you charge for it or not? What are your gifts, your talents, your abilities. What are your soul gifts? What are the things that people are willing to pay you for if you choose to help them with it? I mean, this
Mhm.
is where it gets really exciting. 50 is
Mhm.
not like something you should dread. Like you should just be getting started at 50 because
Mhm.
now you don't have all the stuff that you
Yeah.
were carrying, all the conditioning, all the things you've already broken through, busted through all of that. Now you're like, I'm ready to like live my life the way it was intended for me to live my life, and I'm not going to hold myself back. And that's exciting because that means you're just literally getting started with some of your
Yeah.
best years and the best the
Yeah.
things that you're here to do.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I definitely feel
Yeah.
like life is just starting, like in the 50s. At least for me, I just felt like, oh my gosh, like I know who I am. I
Yeah.
am being authentically me. I mean, there's still parts of me that are still, that there's still some fear
Sure.
there to show up as
Sure.
myself fully and authentically. But I know who I am,
Mhm.
and I'm not afraid to tell people if I need to. I'm not afraid to show up as myself, and I think it's beautiful. I think this is the most exciting time of my life. I mean, everything has
Very
had a
empowering.
yes, very, very empowering. I mean, everything has had a beautiful face, right? Like, I absolutely miss when my kids were little and I was their world,
Sure.
like, I miss that part, but I was such a different person too, it
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
when I look back at who that Sonia was, it's like, oof,
Yeah.
it's almost like I was a robot, it's almost like I was just on autopilot, like doing the
Yeah.
thing I'm supposed to do. So, yes, I 100%, couldn't agree for those who are listening who haven't reached that point yet. I mean, let me tell you, you're in for a treat. If you
Yeah.
choose to like
If you choose to.
embrace if you choose to embrace the work and, kind of roll with the punches a little bit and, work
Yeah.
through it, then
Yeah.
you'll get on the other side and be in a much, much better place for sure.
And for me, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm actually 50 years old and I'm going to be 51 at the end of March. Yes, I'm an Aries.
Mhm.
A lot of people, and it's not that I hid it. I guess it just we never talked about age, right? And it's been so interesting because I remember thinking about when I was like 48. I'm like, oh God, I can't wait till I like get over the 50 because then I can share all that I know about all this stuff. Like there was some part of me that didn't want to speak about some of these things because I wasn't 50 yet, right? Like what the
Mhm.
hell do I know if I'm not 50? And
Mm.
but the reality was that I still had a lot of clients who I was helping through, that last 48, 49, 50, 51 years old. And so for me, and just because I'm an astrologer, just because I know my own chart in its inside and out, doesn't mean I got to skip any of it. Any
Mhm.
of it. When I was let's see, I'm gonna be 51, and at 48, I packed up, moved everything from California, and moved to Las Vegas, Nevada. Like, I never left California my whole life. I mean, I always lived in California. And, I just had this deep, deep inner feeling like I needed a change. I needed a big change. I needed a big shift. I just needed something new. And I just couldn't be fearful about it. I couldn't overthink it. I just had to do it. And I made the leap and it was the best thing I could have ever done. And I'm happy here. I love it.
Mhm. Mhm.
But what I didn't know is that what right after I made that move, I didn't know that my Chiron return was going to take me into some of the deepest, deepest, deepest places of myself that I had ever been in. I've been in healing and personal development for years. And it was like you said, like, what? Like, I didn't even know to work on that because I didn't know it was a
Mhm.
thing. I didn't even
Mhm.
understand where this came from, or I didn't even know that was there. It's almost like our unconscious mind or our subconscious mind says, "Oh, she's finally safe to explore some of these things. Let me give her a few things to work on that maybe she couldn't have handled before, or maybe it wasn't the
Yeah.
time. It would have blown up her life, right?"
I think you're right about
Yeah.
that. That makes so much sense. It's like, "Okay, she's ready."
She's got the tools, she's got the support, lay it on her.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And
Yes,
and
that's
and
what
I
it feels like. Like,
And I
"What?"
just kept telling and I even had to take a huge step back with my business. I mean, I shared with you a lot. I still kept working the whole time and I had my clients and everything. But in terms of being out there, putting on events like I used to, being on videos, I just couldn't. I felt so inside out. I just had to deal with those deeper layers of things. And one of the biggest, most interesting things that happened is that when I moved to Las Vegas, I was supposed to be with my mom for 3 months. And my mom and I had a very, very rocky relationship for many, many years. I was supposed to be with her for 3 months and then, get into my home. I was moving to my home. Well, that didn't happen. I ended up with her for 14 months because of a lot of things that happened. 14 months of working through 45 years, 48 years of unresolved emotional energies and resentments and all the things that I thought I worked through. I thought I was in a better place with her. All of a sudden, I turned into a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old with all these things coming up, coming out of me, like all these feelings. And I just kept saying to myself, well, this is so damn perfect. This is
Mhm.
so perfect because my Chiron return was happening in the area of my chart that deals with home, family, and mother and early
Mhm.
childhood upbringing. So
Perfect timing.
I got to work through all my things. And you know what? I'm glad I did because now we have so much of a better relationship. I don't even think I couldn't have achieved that level of healing on my own
Mhm.
without her being present and triggering me,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
we're in such a different place now. So even
Well,
I
I'm
did
glad
not
to
think,
hear that. Let me
yeah,
say that because I'm being triggered right now
yeah.
in that area.
You
So,
Well, I do have my own house now, so that's that's another thing, okay?
me too.
Let's just say that. I do have my own house now, so
Okay.
but yeah, so then
Okay.
so that's what happens with the Chiron return. Did you wanna ask one more question before I get to the last
No,
piece of that?
I was gonna ask, okay, so then you can start to move forward into like, tapping into your soul gifts and your zone
Yes,
of genius. And
yes.
how do you help people through that, with astrology and human design?
Yes. One of the biggest things, and you and I've talked about this, and you also, I think, mentioned it in one of your recent workshops, that more and more now, more than ever, and also because other astrological things that are taking place, the women that we know, they're waking up and they're wanting to take more control of their financial future. They want to really be in the driver's seat of that. You know, whether it's things that they want for themselves, for their family, generational wealth, whatever their reason, their purpose behind that, it is very personal for each person. But one thing for sure is that coming, whether you're in your 40s or your 50s, if you're starting to feel like, you know what, I really do want to be in control of my financial future. I do want to direct it. I do want to guide it. I don't want to just be here between who's president and who's getting elected for this and for that, and just keep living my life from this place of everybody else has power and control over my future and what happens. Like I knew for me early on, I didn't want a boss. I didn't want anybody to be in charge of my future, my finances, my time, anything, any of that. And so I got on the entrepreneurial journey like at age 33. But some people are starting, a lot of the clients that are coming to me, a lot of the clients that are coming to you are starting to get to that place. If they're not already there, they are knocking on the door to what can I do? Is there some kind of side business I can start? Can I start a full business? Can I start a coaching business, a spiritual business? What are my gifts? What are my even in astrology when it comes to taking control of your financial future, I call it taking control of your financial future by tapping into your soul gifts and your genius zone, right? But when you're looking at taking more control of your time and your money and your future, it really helps to know what those things are for you. Like, how are you designed to make money and activate abundance in your life? That's all in your human design chart and your astrology chart. I
Mm.
literally can look at somebody's chart. I can see how they are uniquely designed to generate the resources they need, the
Mhm.
money they need, the what is their relationship with money, what's the best path to abundance for them. Like all of those things
Mhm.
show up. And the thing about human design where you and I have gotten much deeper into this aspect of it is that when somebody does start a business, or a lot of the clients I work with already have a business, one thing I'm able to do is look at their human design chart and literally I can see who their aligned clients are. I could see what type of content do you need to be sharing? What kind of services can you be offering? What can you charge? How do you package it? How do you price it? How do you market it? And it's all in your chart. Like you don't have to guess about any of these things because it's there. It's all in your chart. Even if you want to change your career or pivot, in your career, even that's there. Your most aligned career path is there.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that's
go ahead.
awesome. That is beautiful, and that's been where, I mean, like I said, we've been working together since 2019, so you have helped me through so much and through kind of pivoting my business, and then even helping me get into like this new role as a coach. So you've kind of seen me go through all that, and I feel like you have definitely helped me out in getting clear on all of that. But I think that a big part of it is also almost confirmation, right? It's like it's
Right.
almost like I already
Yes.
knew that inside
Mhm.
of me. So you kind of spelling it out for me and telling me I
Right.
can see this in your chart, and I can see this in your, your astrology chart, your birth chart, and your human design chart. It's like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. Like, how
Right.
many times have I said that to you?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this
Oh,
makes so much
it's
sense.
amazing.
It's confirmation of what I've already been feeling. So I guess what I'm saying is, trust that if you're listening to this and you're going, "Oh my god, this makes so much sense." Like, "Oh, I've been feeling this way." Like, trust
Right.
that this is coming up for you, for that there's something there that needs attention,
Yes.
that this is coming up for you because this is the way you're supposed to go. I call them breadcrumbs, there's like little breadcrumbs
Yes.
being dropped all the time
Yes.
to show you this is the way, this is the way, and just you start following those little breadcrumbs
Right.
to start getting you to open up the next door and, okay, what's in it for me here? What do I need to look at? What do I need to explore? And start moving in that direction. So
Yeah, absolutely. And, I always like to tell my clients, and this is a really good way of summing it up, your astrology chart and your human design chart they are the map of your potential in this lifetime. Okay.
mm,
They're both maps of your potential. So that doesn't mean that, like, the work that I'm here to do now at 50, 51, and beyond, I've always known about it. I've known about it since I met with my first astrologer in my early 30s because she showed it to me. But if our charts are a map of our potential in this whole lifetime, that doesn't mean that you're going to activate all your potential at once. How boring. There'd be nothing to look forward to, right?
mhm,
So I
mm,
like to say that about every 5 years, maybe every 7 years, we start activating more and more of that potential. The role that I'm about to step into now, which is super exciting, I haven't talked too much about it, but people will start to see, is something that I already knew about. I knew that was a part of my potential, but it hadn't been activated yet. There were some
mhm,
things I needed to go through and experience and extract the wisdom out of it before I could even step into that role.
mhm.
Right? Same for
Yeah,
you.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
so now it's about when you look at well, not look at, when you have somebody interpret your astrology or your human design chart, they are interpreting the map of your potential, and you do not have to do it all at once. You get to step into the various parts of your potential at various times in your life and wear that for a while and enjoy it and get the most out of it and allow it to bring more fulfillment to your personal and your professional life, your spiritual life, right?
Mhm,
That's really what it's about. So for me, even though I do have two businesses, because one, I do soul coaching, which is strictly for, this type of stuff that we're talking about, using human design and astrology. And then I have the business coaching where I'm helping other women who are coaches, healers, intuitives, guides, get their businesses up and off the ground. Or if they already have a business, start expressing what their message is and what their medicine is in a more clear, concise way, right? To
mm,
clearly communicate the value of the transformation that they're
mhm,
providing so that they can start working with more aligned
mhm.
clients, which
Yeah.
is, exciting because you and I are going to be
Yeah.
doing some joint venture work with some of
Yes.
this that we'll
Yes.
be sharing in the near future.
Mhm,
But this is what it's about for me. And so being able to do this, I'm I have no problem stepping into this role now because
mhm,
I know that this is part of my path. I don't
mhm,
have to wait till I'm good enough or till somebody thinks that it's okay or it's the right time. Like, this is my birthright to express all of who I am in this lifetime. It's all of our
mhm.
birthright to express that. My
Yeah.
job is to help you get super clear on what that is, what your purpose is and what your potential is, and then help you whichever level you're at
Mhm.
to really start embracing that part of it.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and I know how valuable that has been to me and my in my both of my businesses, which is why I asked you to please join me in the Launch Your Soul-Based Business group coaching program that I have going on. Monica Lorraine is joining me there, and
Yep.
for all the participants, there is a session, a one-on-one session with Monica Lorraine, where she is helping you get clear on what that soul, path, what your soul gifts are, and where is your genius zone, so that you can really gain clarity on what that is. So that's
Yeah.
that I couldn't have, I of course, we can, move forward and try to do it on our own, but, like, I already know what the secret sauce is, It's like,
Right?
let's bring you in to, like, let's help, them from the
Yeah.
get-go get clear on what that is, and then we can run
Yeah.
with it and bring that business to life
So
in this group
excited.
coaching program. So, yeah. So I'm
Definitely.
super excited that you're joining me there, by the way, so thank you.
Same here, same here. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's really what, what it comes down to. I wanted to talk about these, these 3 points and really just open it up for your listeners, who really want to get some clarity around this. You might be in that, early or mid 40s or going into your 50s, or it doesn't really matter. You don't have to be any of those ages for astrology or human design to be super helpful for you. But again, these just happen to be a lot of the women who are finding their way to me happen to be in this age group. And I know why, because they're
Mm,
totally getting activated by their charts and they
mm,
need some answers. They need some
mm.
clarity, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So
Mhm.
awesome. So yeah, I'm thank you. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing about this. I think that a lot of listeners will find it super helpful. I think that they always find our conversations really fun and interesting and full of knowledge. So please share with us, where can the listeners find you if they want to work with you and start gaining like some clarity about, what their next steps are,
Yeah,
how they can work
absolutely.
with you.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, you can connect with me over on Instagram at soul aligned underscore coaching, soul aligned underscore coaching. You can always send me a DM. Just mention that you were listening on to the podcast, Sonia's podcast, and this way I know where you're coming from. And if not, you can go straight to my website. There is a link that is specifically for Sonia's followers, and that is soulaligned.net / Sonia hyphen 20. So soulaligned.net / Sonia hyphen 20. And I believe Sonia is going to be adding that to the show
Yeah.
notes so you guys can
Yeah.
click on it. But if you
Yeah.
go there, you can just fill out your information. It's a quick little form and just put your birth information. I'll prepare your chart in advance. And then you could request a 20-minute call, a clarity call over Zoom. We will literally jump on a call just like this on Zoom, pull up your charts, and answer any questions you have. I'll tell you what I see. You can ask me one or two really specific questions that you want clarity around, and you'll be surprised at what we can uncover in 20 minutes.
Yeah, 100%. I can attest to that. That's how I started. So, yeah, I will definitely have all the links in the show notes, and yeah, thank you so much, Monica Lorraine, for joining me again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Of
Looking
course,
forward to
anytime.
looking forward to our next venture in the next
Yes.
couple of weeks.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Sonia. Bye.